Welcome to the KPB Podcast. This is your host, Ethan Gavon, coming to you from Sacramento, California. Keep Playing Baseball is a registered 501c3 nonprofit organization dedicated to helping every high school baseball player navigate the recruiting process and play college baseball. At KPB, we don't think money should dictate who has the opportunity to play college baseball or who gets to make informed decisions throughout the college baseball recruiting process. And all our resources, including this podcast, are 100% free. No signups, no fees, no strings attached. We use the KPB Podcast in many different ways, but the main point is to get you the information you need to keep playing baseball. We appreciate you tuning in to the KPB Podcast, the best source of recruiting information on the go. What's up, guys? If you're tuning in, then you already know this is the KPB Podcast. We appreciate you listening. We are joined by a special guest today. Excited to have Sacramento area native and Philadelphia Phillies catcher Andrew Knapp on the podcast today. Former standout for the California Golden Bears, Knapp quickly rose through the minor league ranks. He made his big league debut on April 6, 2017, and he comes from a baseball family. His father, Mike, played 10 years of professional baseball. His younger brother, Aaron, also a Golden Bear, is currently playing in the minor leagues. This will be Knapp's fourth season in the big leagues with the Phillies, and he comes back to Philadelphia whenever the season starts. After a strong second half last year where he hit .271 with a .346 OBP, much more importantly, he's truly one of the good guys in baseball, and he's been a huge supporter of Keep Playing Baseball, and we are really happy to have his support. He also supports the Darren Dalton Foundation and does a great job with the community and giving back. So we're fired up to have him on the show. We talk about his path to the big leagues, his time in college, advice he has for young ball players, and what he would do if he was commissioner of Major League Baseball. Some fun answers mixed in there. So without further ado, we're going to jump to the podcast. Tune in because it's a good one. Andrew, thanks for jumping on the podcast with us today.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
So obviously we're in a really strange time right now. What have you been doing since you've been on lockdown, since all the coronavirus stuff? How are you staying ready for whenever the potential season might start, and what's your day look like?
Yeah, it's a weird thing because you're trying to stay in shape, but you're also trying to social distance and be as responsible as possible. So for me, it's a lot of outdoor activities, running, trying to get some form of workouts in, push-ups, sit-ups, that kind of stuff. A lot of yoga, stuff that you can do on the computer, or, I have a TRX, so I've been doing stuff like that. But it's a weird time, especially for us. We don't really have a date where we know this thing's going to get back going up. So it's a weird thing to juggle.
Yeah, it's times like these where you feel lucky that you're in California instead of somewhere where it's snowing and you're literally stuck inside.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's been a game changer for me, is being able to just at least go outside in the sun and sweat a little bit. I got a cage set up in my garage, like a little net with a tee, so at least I can swing. I'm not like facing any pitching or doing BP or anything like that, but I can keep my body somewhat ready, and hopefully when this thing gets going back up, we can get a couple weeks to really ramp up and get going.
Yeah, I'm sure they won't have you guys start cold turkey. So hopefully that comes sooner rather than later, obviously, once figure out that it's safe. But have some questions from high school guys for you. Want to talk about Phillies, your path to the big leagues. Before we get into that, you're active on the communal front, right? So you've been a big KPB supporter. You've been a supporter of the Darren Dalton Foundation. Before we get to the X's and O's of baseball and training and all that, can you talk a little bit about why it's so important for you to be engaged with the community and doing that good work that you do?
Yeah, I think Obviously I feel very fortunate to be in the position that I'm in, and I kind of have a platform to bring awareness to things that I think are important and things that I think are helping other people. And both KBP and the Darren Dalton Foundation are doing those things, and I love being a part of those organizations. I think it's really important that kids have outlets to continue to achieve their dream and try to be a professional baseball player. So for me, it's just kind of a no-brainer to support a brand like this. And I've been in Philly now for 4 seasons in the big leagues, and Darren Dalton was a catcher in Philadelphia who died of cancer. And I think, just being a part of an organization like that has been such an honor too, because, he was such a great player and also did so much for the community as well. So for me, it's just, I love giving back, and I love being a part of things that are helping other people.
Yeah, and I already said it in your intro. Obviously, I know you on a more personal level than most, but truly one of the good guys in the game. So we appreciate your support. And I think that's a good segue, right? Because you talk about providing an outlet for kids. So you come from a baseball family. Your dad played 10 years in professional baseball, your brothers in professional baseball. Take us back to Andrew Knapp, the junior high or high school player, even before that. Were you always a baseball guy?
Yeah, I always loved baseball. It was wiffle ball in the backyard all summer for me. I did play football growing up too, and I did swim team too. So I was very active, and it was for me, baseball was what I loved most, but it wasn't all I had. I got to go play football during football season. I was swimming during the summer, and I think those outlets helped me physically, gain some form of athleticism that you might not get from playing just one sport, but also competitiveness. You're constantly competing. And then when baseball season came back around, I was so excited to get back into that. I didn't really get burnt out from just playing one sport all the time. In Little League, I was just like everyone else, played infield, pitched, played all over the place, just wanted to basically be part of the action. I started catching more consistently when I got to high school. I still played infield every couple of starts. I'd play third base or second base. And I didn't really grow until my junior year. After my junior year is when I committed to Cal, but I was really trying to solidify myself as a quality player, and I wasn't physically strong enough or big enough when I was younger to do that. So I worked hard and I created fundamentals, but once I grew a little bit, that's kind of when the trajectory kind of shot up for me.
And walk us through your decision to play at Cal. Obviously, your dad went there, so maybe there's a little added incentive. But what did your recruiting process look like once at what point did you know you wanted to play college baseball instead of being, the next Michael Phelps or Brian Urlacher or whatever, I don't know, position you played, but how did you make that decision? And then what did that process look like?
Yeah, well, fundamentally, my family's really into education, and I knew that I was going to go to college no matter what. And I also knew that a scholarship would help the family tremendously financially. And, I didn't want to just go to school and rely solely on that. I wanted to have something to fall back on, just mentally through the grind. So I knew that a scholarship for baseball was the way to go. As far as the recruiting process went, I went to a lot of camps. I got a lot of letters from schools, but I grew up around Cal baseball. I would go to those games. I'd go to football games all the time. And I kind of fell in love with Berkeley as a young kid. But I also was looking at other programs. I took recruiting visits to Stanford, Oregon, a lot of Pac-12 schools, and was just trying to really find a fit for me that I was going to, one, get a chance to play as a freshman coming in, and two, a program that was going to develop me for the next level, because ultimately I want to continue into professional baseball. So that ended up being Cal, but it wasn't an attachment because of family. It was more a decision that I made with a lot of weighing factors.
Yeah. So really focusing in on that fit and what felt right to, kind of checking all those boxes.
Yeah. Yeah. I think Cal at that time, well, it's still a great program, but at that time it was one of those programs that had a name for developing guys and for letting guys grow into themselves as players, and not necessarily making everyone the same player. There's a lot of programs out there that are great programs, but they might try to fit everyone into a little bit of a college baseball box, and Coach Esker, who's now at Stanford, but he was one of those guys that was, this is going to be your journey, and we're not going to really make you do one thing or another, and you're going to figure it out on your own, which I really appreciate moving forward.
You're going to hit a lot of sliders and a lot of velo.
Yep. Yeah. And it's not going to be easy. That was one of those things where I think he told me that it was my freshman or sophomore year. He's like, it's not going to be easy going through this. It might be easy for guys like Mike Trout or Bryce Harper, or these superstars, but when you're at the college level as a freshman coming in, facing legitimate Pac-12 arms and legitimate Pac-12 hitters, there's a growing period and a maturity level that you need to grow into. So for me, I grew so much as a player and as matured as a person at Cal that there's no way I'd be where I'm at without those 3 years.
Yeah. And during your time there, I mean, UCLA won a title, right? Arizona won a title. You're talking about, the big leagues is littered with guys that you competed against, right? So what did that transition look like? And I believe your first year, you guys went to the College World Series, right? As a freshman.
Yeah. So kind of a wild start for me at Cal, because we got to school in the fall and we started fall ball, and then the program got cut, which was heartbreaking for all of us. And we kind of had to make a decision really quick on whether we were going to stay for that year or use the free transfer that was given to us by the NCAA. So we had guys that transferred to other schools because, it really wasn't looking good about the program
Right.
coming back. And I decided that I was going to play the season out and then make a decision on whether I was going to leave or stay and just go to school. Ultimately, I didn't have to make that decision, thankfully, because we got reinstated probably 3/4 of the way through the season. I remember we were at Arizona. We had just played Friday night, and then Saturday we had a team meeting, and it was about being reinstated. But I mean, that was a great team. 2011. You have Marcus Semien playing shortstop. Eric Johnson, former White Sox pitcher, was pitching Friday night for us. Tony Renda playing second base. We had a lot of guys that went on to play at the next level. And I think what we went through in the fall being cut really lit a fire in us and brought us closer together. And that team aspect, went a long way, because even if we were losing going into the ninth inning, we didn't believe we were out of it. And we trusted in each other that we were going to get through this. It was a really, really fun season.
Yeah. Had that X factor that, you hear about a lot of teams where they're outperforming maybe even their capabilities. Although, as you mentioned, rattle off 4 big leaguers on the same roster. It's pretty good at any level. So what were some of the difficult adjustments just as a player? So we have a question from Joey, who's a high school catcher, and he's wondering, what are the most important aspects that he should be working on to prepare for the transition to college and to prepare to play catcher at the college level?
It's a tough thing, right? Because you're not going to really know what you need to do until you get there. The one thing I would say is that the more that you can make the fundamentals just mindless to where you're not worried about physically catching the ball, throwing the ball, blocking on the defensive side, then you can focus on the gameplay. And the game's not going to speed up on you as much as it might if you're worried about the little things. This goes in any level. The higher you go up, you want to make sure those things are tightened. For me, at the collegiate, from high school to college, the adjustment needed to be made for me was defensively. I had the bat speed and I could hit, but there was a lot of pass balls. There was a lot of wild pitches. The throwing was inconsistent. So I had to really get in the cage off the machine and just do the reps and just take the time to go through. Some of that stuff's not fun to do, and it's monotonous and boring, and it's not hitting off the, it's not hitting on the field and hitting homers. But in order to be a consistent collegiate player, those holes need to be tightened for sure.
Yeah, just that baseline, almost like, so you're building your autopilot, right? Because obviously,
yeah,
when you're facing a Trevor Bauer, a Mark Appel, good college pitchers, right? You don't have time to think about these things as you're competing, right?
Yeah, and I think the good teams like the UCLAs, the Stanfords, they put pressure on teams that can't handle the fundamentals, and they take advantage of that. So when you're playing these teams like UCLA, they're going to bunt.
Right.
That the bunt play is going to happen, but can you be fundamental in the moment under pressure? And when you've done it so much, those things just become a part of the game, and you don't even think about it. It just becomes reaction. So, I think obviously physically you need to get in the gym. You need to make sure your arm's ready, run, hit as much as possible, make sure your hands are ready to go. But I think hammering those fundamentals is huge.
Yeah. So we had I coach at Davis High School now, and we had your former catching coach from Cal, Tony Arnerich, on, and he was talking about the same things, right? The fundamentals, building the fundamentals. And then he also mentioned, like you just said, the weight room and just making sure that you're a physical player. So can you talk about, you go from being a high school player where you're the top dog to now you're competing against 21, 22-year-olds who have been in the college weight room for, sometimes 5 years. So can you talk a little bit about not so much the baseball adjustments, but just the physicality that college baseball, the step up it is from high school?
Yeah, it's one of those things where this has to be your main focus. There's going to be a couple, your focus is going to be school and baseball, and those have to be at the top of your pyramid when it comes to what you're focused on. And obviously, yeah, relationships are great and you want to have fun with your friends, but when it comes down to it, getting in the gym and making sure that you have a routine and you're preparing your body to go out and play 50 something games, that's a double high school season, and you're going to be traveling, you're going to be flying. So just really taking care of your body is so important. You don't want to be on the DL because you were on a flight late and you didn't hydrate and you end up tweaking something. That's like the worst thing that can happen. So there just has to be this sense of responsibility on your own part to take care of your body and to get in the gym.
Don't want to end up in a Tucson hospital overnight with.
No, you don't. Food poisoning will get you.
Yeah. Yeah. Funny. That's a funny story, but we'll leave that for another time. Talk a little bit. So you mentioned routine, right? So what does your off-season routine look like? How are you preparing to compete at the highest level right now? Just kind of walk us through what your mindset is, what you're trying to accomplish in order to prepare for a big league season.
Yeah, I'm a big routine guy. I like every day being the same. And you get that in baseball, where it's, you can show up to the ballpark pretty much every day. Unless it's a day game, you're going to show up at the exact same time, go about your day the same way. So I try to take that into the off season. So I'm working out 5 days a week during the week. And then on the weekends, I give my body a little bit of time to rest, but I'm also, I'm going for runs. I'm doing yoga in between. But I'm in the gym pretty much 5 to 6 days a week in the off season, really hammering down on weights, but also just on like range of motion, mobility stuff. Because over time, over 162 games, your body gets worn down. So you just need to build up that stamina. And sometimes that's not with lifting a ton of weights, but it's more about just stretching and making sure that you can get your body into positions catching wise in your squat that are just less damaging over a certain period of time. So for me, stretching's huge. Getting my arm in shape before spring training is a big one too. I like to really make sure when I'm going into camp that I can throw to bases, I can long toss, because you get in pitchers and catchers and you're throwing constantly because there's 700 pitchers and there's usually like 5 catchers. So you're catching bullpens all morning, you're going out, you're doing your throwing, you're hitting, you're running. So it's a giant weight load all at once. So the better you can prepare your body for that, it's just going to help you out in the long run. Hitting wise, I try to get as much machine work as I can just to see some velocity and get my eyes ready to go. A lot of fastball machine, a lot of slider machine, and just kind of create a routine so that when I get to camp, I'm not trying to figure out a new routine, just once the season starts, you're going to have your routine that you took from spring training, and your spring training routine is going to be what you took from the off season. So you just kind of want to keep that ball rolling so that there's not these drastic periods of time where, all right, the season starts, now what? It's like, no, this is what we've been doing for all of camp, and then the same thing in the off season. So those routines may adjust. You may think, all right, I need to do a little bit more of this and less of this, but overall the majority of what you're doing is going to be the same.
Have you made any major adjustments to your off season since the time you, let's say, entered pro ball to now as a veteran player?
That's a good question. I think I'd focus more on what my role is now. I think I am doing more velocity off the machine because most of the time I'm coming in late in the game, I'm facing a closer. I'm facing massive velo. I think I've put a high demand on my catching and my receiving. At the big league level, it's so important to get as many strikes as possible. So we focus a lot on the receiving part of the game. And but as far as like the weight room and stuff goes, it's pretty much the same. I kind of understand where I need to be at getting into camp now. The first couple of spring trainings, you might think you're ready, or you might have overworked and you're kind of like a little bit burnt out before you can get there. So there's kind of this happy medium of, I know I'm ready, but I'm also fresh because this is going to be a long season.
Yeah.
Which is weird right now. It's this weird like limbo where we were ready to go. I mean, we were days away from the opening day, and then you get shut down and you're not really in a gym anymore. You're trying to figure out how to stay ready. So, it's this weird, how much is too much? Because it could be a long year. We could end up going into November, this season. So trying to stay loose and keep the body moving, but definitely don't overdo it.
Yeah. And then what does your game day routine look like? Because obviously you guys are playing or traveling pretty much every day for half a year. So what does it look like from the time you wake up to first pitch?
Yeah, so 7:00 game. We usually don't finish until 10:30 ish. These games go pretty quick, pretty long. So I'm not back to the apartment until 11:30, which kind of makes your time clock push back a little bit. Obviously, you're sleeping in a little bit more, but I like to get up and I like to move around so that I'm not groggy. But I'll probably get to the ballpark 1:30 for a 7:00 game. I'll get in the weight room, stretch, foam roll, really wake my body up. And then I really enjoy working out before a game. It's not like a heavy lift, but we're getting some sweat going, we're getting the blood flowing. And that's just kind of a routine that I've created in order to get through the long season. Because if you don't lift during the year, you're gonna lose all of that by the time September, October comes. So you might not feel like doing it, but you got to get in the gym and move around a little bit and keep your body ready. Then I get in the cage, do my routine in the cage, and if I'm not catching that day, I really like to get out and catch bullpens, see the pitchers, and work with them, because it'll keep me ready for when I do catch, and there's not as much time in between me seeing guys, because as the backup, I might not catch a guy for a month, just the starts might not line up. So the more bullpens I can get in, the more I can see these guys, the better it'll be once I do catch them.
Definitely. What do you feel like was your welcome to the big league moment? I mean, what kind of set that bulb off in your head where you're like, wow, I'm here?
That's a funny question. I think my first hit was a relief, because my first start I went 0 for 2 with a walk, and then the next start that I got, I was like 0 for 1, I think, and I was like, oh man, I really need to get a hit. And that's not a good thought to have, because that just snowballs. But I ended up hitting a double off of Steven Strasburg, which was awesome. But I think the aha moment that you're talking about was probably my first home run in LA off the Dodgers. Just like one of those, it was like, I can't believe that this is happening. I had a ton of family there too. It was California, so that was just a really cool moment.
Yeah. And I'm sure you're talking like a seasoned vet now about how to prepare your body and how to approach the game and make sure you're not getting burnt out, but still stay prepared. So, I mean, you're officially there, but who have been some of the big influences for you as you came up through the system, or when you got to the big leagues? Who have been some of the guys that kind of took you under their wing or gave you some really good advice?
Yeah, there's been so many guys. My first year, we were a pretty young team. I think there was at least half of us either debuted or had less than a year of big league service. So we were kind of all doing it together. But there was still guys like Daniel Nava was a guy my first year that he's just such a pro, and just knows how to really show up each and every day, and it's just like cool, calm, collected. Doesn't matter if things are going good, if things are going bad. This is his job. I'm going to show up and I'm going to be a pro. And I took a lot from that. It's a long season. You can't have tons of highs and tons of lows. You may feel like things are way lower than they are, or you might think, things couldn't get better, but the more mellow you can stay and the more even keel you can be, it's just going to help you in the long run. But we have a ton of guys now. I think, watching JT catch every day is awesome for me, being able to back him up and just try to make it so there's not that big of a disconnect between when he's playing and when I'm playing, trying to like elevate my game up to, one of the best catchers in baseball, is really fun. We've had so many guys, like you talk about Bryce Harper, he's an icon, superstar, and just being able to watch his routine and what he goes through, and that may be different than someone else. And there's not one right way to do something, but there is work ethic, and that has to be there.
Yeah. So you mentioned earlier, right, when you first started, you're like, man, I really need to get a hit. You're in a really, I think, probably the most difficult role in sports, right? Because you don't get those consistent game reps. And then when you do come in nowadays, you're facing 97 to 100 with a wicked slider or what, so really difficult. So how have you been able to, or is it still a battle trying to say, look, I just need to stick with my approach, my process, and stay even keel like that?
Yeah, you definitely you're battling it constantly. But I think after these couple of years of being in this role, you just have to adjust what success is. I can't judge myself off of an everyday player. As much as you may envy that role or want to be that, that's not the reality that I'm in right now. And it's not going to help me to try to compare myself to JT or to other starters around the league. I have to understand what my role is and change my understanding of what success is. So what I've done personally is when I do catch, I really want to catch a winning game. I don't really care about my own personal outcomes, but if we win, then I know I helped the team that day. But as far as pinch hitting goes, just having a quality at bat, and that might be a 5-pitch strikeout. But if I was able to waste a couple of pitches, get my swing off on some pitches that I thought I could do damage on, then that's all I can do. Because you're right. You're facing a guy coming out of the bullpen with nasty stuff. He's there for a reason, and I might not hit for another couple of days. So I can't linger on that one at bat saying, oh man, I'm in a slump. It's like, well, yeah, you had one at bat. You didn't even get a pitch to hit. You're facing whoever it may be. Sean Doolittle, he's got an invisible fastball. These are guys that are making a ton of money and are very successful at what they do. So, and you're also playing a game of failure. So, it's just one of those things that it's definitely a mental grind, but the more that I'm in this spot, the more I can come up with ways to find success in what I'm doing.
Yeah. And you had a really good second half last year. Obviously, I think you hit 271 or something with above 350 OBP or right around there. So a lot of ways to contribute to a team, which is, I think, a really good lesson for high school guys out there who are listening to this, where, hey, success, not everyone gets to be a superstar right now. It's something you can work towards, but there's a lot of ways you can contribute to team success and continue to improve as a player.
Yeah, absolutely. And that doesn't mean you have to give up on wanting to be that everyday guy. Like I
Right.
definitely believe that I can catch in the big leagues every day right now, but that's not really up to me. It's the situation that I'm dealt right now is being the backup. So I'm definitely going to work towards being that starter. I want to be that guy. Hopefully I get an opportunity to prove that I can do it. But right now there's more quality in me just trying to help the team any way that I can than to dwell on the fact that I'm not playing every day.
Right. Yeah. I'm hearing a lot of control the controllables in what you say, which I think is probably the best lesson for guys who want to keep playing the game at higher levels to really hone in on, and just, hey, what can you control? And then controlling your reaction to what you can't, right? Being a good teammate when you're not getting your way and stuff like that. Want to transition a little bit to providing some advice and maybe even some catching specific stuff. We had a couple questions related to that for young players. I mean, if as you look back on your journey from high school to college to professional baseball, minor leagues to the major leagues, what do you feel like is the best advice you could give, let's say, a ninth grader who really loves baseball and wants to play at the college level and continue to play? What do you think the most important thing for them to do is?
I think the most important thing to do is to, one, keep your options open. Like make sure that you're getting your schoolwork done, that you're showing up on time, that all these things are taken care of, so that if there is an opportunity that comes up that allows you to go that next level, there's nothing holding you back. And then the second is to just play as much as possible. Just get on the field and play, because there's not really game development can't come unless you play games. And that's just a fact. Like, you can hit in the cage as long as you want, but unless you go out and you face live pitching, you don't really know what your swing's looking like. So I think those are two things that for me are most important moving forward, is just getting as much game time as possible, and then making sure that all of your loose ends are tied up in case something happens where you do get an opportunity to go that next level.
Yeah. Okay. So kind of scaling that back, obviously you talked earlier about building up your fundamentals. So we had a question from Bannon, who's actually a 10-year-old catcher, and he wants to know, what are some of your favorite blocking drills? And it's a really good question, two-part question actually, because he wants to know how you work on being really fast out of your secondary stance so that you can block balls. So how do you train your blocking so that it translates to game speed and you can do it quickly?
It's a good question. I think one, you have to really know your body. Like, what are you good at and what are you bad at? Because the things you're good at are just going to come naturally, and you don't have to think about doing that. But it's the things that you're not good at that you have to really hammer down and work on. So for me, blocking to my right is super easy. I just do it naturally. I don't know if it's something that's just from playing infield or what it is, but I can move that way. My hips work better that way, but it's moving to my left that I have a tougher time with. So that's something that I'm going to work off the machine. I'm going to work on that left-handed slider that's moving away from me. I'm going to work on like that changeup that's going away from a lefty. But as far as scaling that back a little bit, I think blocking, like, just from your knees to begin with, and understanding where the ball needs to hit you on the chest in order for it to land right in front of you is a big thing. So I'll just wear my chest protector and my knee pads, and I'll get on my knees in the blocking position, and I'll have the ball bounce off my chest and try to get it so that it stops right on home plate. Because you might block the ball, but if it goes 10 feet the other way, the guy's still going to move. You know, these guys are so good at the dirt ball read that even if you do block it, you got to be able to recover and make a throw very quickly. So that's a thing that you can do in your blocking routine that'll just help you understand how the ball is going to ricochet off your chest and where you need to be in order to keep it close. As far as like getting out of your stance quickly, that's just footwork stuff. So that can be done pretty much anywhere. You can do that footwork when you're playing catch. You can do that footwork when you're doing the blocking drills. You can do that footwork pretty much anywhere. You don't need a machine to do stuff like that. You can do it even without a ball. So one of the things I do tell young players is, if you're really serious about catching, and you, like right now, I'm sure people are watching a ton of TV. You can watch TV in your squat. Like these are things that will help your legs strengthen. You know, you'll get better range of motion in that position, and it'll create stamina. You know, when you're in the 8th and 9th inning and your legs are tired, you're focusing more on that than what you need to do to block that ball or get quick feet to throw a guy out. So the more that stuff just becomes like, I can catch 18 innings. I'm not worried about catching 9 innings. That'll just help you moving forward.
I think we're getting a preview into how you eat your dinner in this quarantine times, right? You're in your catcher squat, just eat shoveling food in your mouth.
Well, yeah, it's like one of those weird things where you start catching so much that the squat becomes a more comfortable position.
Yeah.
Like when we're in the outfield shagging for BP, you'll find me in my squat more than just standing in left field. It's weird because you just do it so much that it becomes comfortable, which is kind of crazy for people who never played or don't catch, because it's not a comfortable position, but after a while it becomes comfortable.
Right. Yeah. What other drills? Are there any other drills that you would really recommend to young guys, or just areas of focus? I know you mentioned receiving is a really big deal for you guys.
Yeah, we do a lot of receiving bare hand with weighted balls. And what this does is it creates hand movement and strength in your shoulder stability in order to catch a ball and have it not move. Because this is a lever, right? And if you're weak around this shoulder, it's going to make the ball look like it's moving up and down. So we do a lot of weighted ball stuff. We do a lot of machine stuff. I think, if you guys have access to a machine, that's a catcher's best friend. You can get so many reps in such a short period of time. You could do a couple hundred reps and not be worn out. The other thing we do is, if you're not going to try to wear out your legs. Let's say you've caught bullpens and you've done an air squat or whatever it is, and your legs are fried, you can go and do all these drills from your knees. You don't have to be in your catcher's squat to do it. So we'll do a lot of receiving handwork stuff from our knees so that you can get those reps and not completely wear your legs out.
Yeah. Again, striking that balance, right, between continuing to get better and then making sure you're fresh and gearing your training. So, why do we train? Well, it's to be good in the games, right? Be good when it matters most. So love to hear that. Don't want to keep you on here forever. Do have a few more fun questions, kind of MLB related stuff. give guys a little window into your life. So, we've seen McCutchen dance. Is he the best dancer on the Phillies?
Absolutely.
No hesitation?
No hesitation. He's one of the funniest guys I've ever been around. He's just, not only is he an incredible player and a person, but he is funny. Like, great teammate. Everything you think about Andrew McCutchen is probably correct.
Okay. Another one. You're stuck on a deserted island with 3 of your teammates. Who are you bringing with you?
That's a good question. Definitely Bryce. Bryce and I've gone pretty close over this past year. Bryce, probably Zach Eflin. We got a pretty good pitcher-catcher relationship. And my third one would probably be another sack guy, Reese. We've known each other since we were like 13, so that relationship's pretty strong. So those would be my 3 guys.
So you're going relationships. You're trying to create that tight knit. You're not going who has the best survival skills or anything like that. You're trying to have a good time on the island.
Yeah, it's all about friends. We'll get through it.
There you go. Awesome. Best piece of advice you've ever received from either a big league coach or someone else in the big leagues?
I can't. It's just kind of it's like a known thing in baseball, and I can't give any one person credit because I've heard it so many times, but it's just, be ready for your opportunity. And you don't know when that's going to come, but if you show up to the ballpark every day, prepare yourself, prepare your mind and your body for an opportunity, then that's all you can do. So that's the biggest thing. And it's not like you got to be scared for missing that opportunity, and maybe it's not, it might show up today, but you might get another one tomorrow. So, success isn't based off of taking advantage of that one opportunity, but you have to show up every day and prepare to be ready to take advantage.
Awesome. Okay. Last fun little question. Then we'll give you our final question that we always do for podcast guests, and then let you get back to your work. But okay, you're commissioner, Major League Baseball commissioner for a day. What's one adjustment or change that you're making?
Ooh.
Could be anything, outlandish or practical.
That's a good question. I would probably do something along the lines of like the fan experience. So like, maybe it would be like free food and drink or something, just to get as many fans in as possible. Just like, that's what I'm missing. Yeah, that's what I'm missing right now. I'm missing like that fan experience, with everyone's at home. You're missing out on all these relationships. So for me right now, that's the first thing that comes to mind. I would do like, or maybe even free tickets. Who knows? Like, just bring in as many people as possible.
So you're going to be a big advocate of the cardboard cutouts if you guys are playing in empty stadiums like we've seen in some of the other places.
Are they doing that?
Yeah, I think it's in Korea where they have cardboard cutouts of fans in a lot of the seats to try and make it look like there's people there. Pretty funny.
Bring in like overhead sounds of fans and stuff.
Yeah, there you go. Selfless response there, right? I told you guys, one of the good guys in the game. He could boost his salary to infinity, but he chooses the fan experience. So I love that.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah. All right, man. So last question, not really a question, but what we like to do, you have a captive audience of young baseball players, baseball parents, coaches, baseball people listening right now. So we like to just give our guests an open mic and let them mic drop their way off the podcast. So no pressure, but if you have any message that you want to get out to people, floor is all yours.
Okay. Well, I guess the one thing I have, especially in times like this, quarantine times, is you kind of realize how important baseball is to people, and I just feel very blessed to be a part of that. And I hope everyone's staying safe, and I hope everyone's being responsible, but I also want everyone to really enjoy when we do get that opportunity to watch baseball again, or to play baseball again, to be a part of that. So it's kind of sappy, but you really miss the game right now, and everything involved with it during a time like this. So love everyone and hope everyone's staying safe.
Awesome. Well, I know you're busy, so we really appreciate the continued support for Keep Playing Baseball and taking the time to jump on here and drop some knowledge for the kids.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, hopefully you guys are back playing baseball soon in packed stadiums with free food, beverages, and tickets.
Yeah, that's right. Just everyone come out and watch. That's all we want.
Thanks for making it to the end of this episode of the KPB Podcast. If you find value in our podcast, please help us make it better. Subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. Leave us a 5-star rating, write a review. All of that helps us get this information into the hands of those who need it most. We're always beyond excited to get questions and provide more information. You can reach us by email at keepplayingbaseball@gmail.com. Our Twitter DMs are open. That's at keepplayingbb. Same is true for our Instagram account. That's at keepplayingbaseball. And Facebook, Keep Playing Baseball. We're always excited to help provide you with the information that you need to make educated decisions in the recruiting process and move towards your goal of playing college baseball. Don't hesitate to reach out if you need anything, and we'll be back with another episode soon. Until then, take care.